This has been my consistent position on bad empanada over and over and over and over again. What I don't get is how you'll say empanada is nuts and then weaponize mania towards Ethan. No, as a matter of fact, I don't do that. You want to know why I don't do that? When Ethan goes, well, bad empanada called AB a house slave. What do you say to that? I'm like, I don't agree with that. I don't endorse that at all.
No.
If I actually agreed with it, or if I actually agreed with his methods, I'd be like, well, yeah, his constant hammering on of the CPS call is actually perfectly valid or whatever. You know what I mean? I wish that he wouldn't do any of that. I wish that he would focus less on drama in general. I wish, because whenever he tries to like cover that subject matter, he gets completely out of control. Do you see what I mean? Yeah, Hassan endorses his research on the Jewish diaspora leaving the MENA region, not calling Gila the raider of Ramallah or playing the game where he like, I even understand what argument he's trying to make, right? When he plays the Al-Aqsa Martyrs video game, right, on Steam. When he's doing that, he's trying to showcase the double standard of people being called a terrorist and smeared viciously, as opposed to people who have actually taken up arms and engaged in acts of terrorism. Everybody has played Call of Duty. There is no issue with killing as many Muslims as possible, but when the roles are reversed, everybody loses their Would I do that? Absolutely not, okay? Never in a million years would I do that. I think it's a insane thing to do. It's an insane thing to do. The point I always make on this, by the way, is simple. If I were to come out with an insane statement and say, like, we must nuke Tel Aviv, then I would get banned off every platform and probably actually get sent to prison. But if I say, let's nuke Tehran or let's nuke the Gaza Strip, I would get elevated into the State Department to a higher position of power. Okay, this is the heart of that double standard. This is why I always say, while anti-Semitism and Islamophobia are both unacceptable forms of bigotry, anti-Semitism has institutional power. You can't engage in anti-Semitism, actual anti-Semitism, not like, or even you can't even engage in what people perceive as anti-Semitism, unless it's something as ridiculous as what Ethan is claiming, obviously, like the bleach sword, okay? But like even criticisms of Israel are packaged under anti-Semitism deliberately by the State Department. People black bag, okay? But when you say Islamophobic, when you engage in Islamophobia, when
Time
you
to get
engage
to
in
work.
anti-Arab bigotry, it's perfectly fine. Nobody ever bats an eye at that. Destiny, Ethan is an R-word who thinks being friends with people is being their attack dog. Even Hassan thinks Ethan is an R-word. Think about that for 10 seconds. Omega lol.
You literally look like a free tattoo pack that you get for 25 cents from a windy thing, bro. Like literally my kids have cooler tattoos from Chuck E. Cheese. Bro looks like he just went to the menu and was like, I'll take that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, and that one.
I have quite a few options here. I can show your tattoos in all of their glory, or I can show that your tattoo made it to the top of awful taste but great execution subreddit, which is not a good thing. I mean, it might be a good thing for the artists that you work with because that means that they did a good job from a technical standpoint, but it's sort of a failure in every other aspect, particularly the decision-making aspect. If you want to go tattoo for tattoo, Ethan, we can do that. You want to keep it to other things? We can.
I didn't miss him showing the Gila tattoo. I just don't care. Like, I think this is iDubbbz returning to form in some fashion where he's like, if you want to go band for band, like, I'll be vicious. This isn't even a criticism of iDubbbz. I personally don't give a shit about whatever tattoo Ethan gets or engage in any sort of psychoanalysis over what that...
You wouldn't have brought it up if Ethan didn't bring up his tattoos like a bitch.
Something that I saw his own fan base make jokes about, like not iDubbbz's, I'm saying Ethan's own fan base was making jokes about that. You have not mentioned Ethan's kids once, the crew or his family in any shape or form. To this day, you're still charitable and focused on the politics. Ethan, on the other hand, has brought up your mom, dad, friends, your dog, even your quote-unquote housekeeper, sex life. I know, everything, literally everything. Like, Ethan has also personally brought forward his family members, including his dad and his mom. Like, he's made them a primary fixture of his content. They've done a lot of weird. I never touched on that. I don't care to touch on it. You know what I mean? I think that's irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. But because he's doing a faucet of misinfo and trying to smear to the best of his goddamn ability, not obsessed, by the way, of course. Like, he said my glasses are fake. Like, it's silly. It's frivolous.
Anything.
It came up because they were talking about it on their podcast. By the way, they're the ones that like started this conversation by talking about it on the podcast and be like, hey, I'm not getting involved.
I think that was their response after you guys
initially called
Hard
them
point.
He can't even keep straight who attacked
Secure the
who
objective.
first. He thinks that our podcast
You're falling
will
behind,
express
Crimson.
sympathy for him and Eli.
I mean, he was so obsessed with like winning the argument in clicks in his mind that he went so far as to call his own wife a terrorist. Is Ramallah?
Hard point located.
No, I don't think so, but it's under occupation.
So why was your
Hard point locked down. Hostiles have the hard point. Hard point active. Hostiles have captured the hard point.
That is the reality.
Would you be upset if this person they arrested like stabbed?
Hard point is secure.
Correct. Like this, take this, foot soldiers. What the like?
Hostile RPXT in your AO. Hardpoint identified. Taking the lead. Stay on task. Hostiles have the hardpoint. Hardpoint is active.
To touch grass.
Hostiles reclaim the lead.
Arcades are going on!
I'm hostile.
Mass hysteria. Even implied, what would 100
Watchdog Helo incoming on your location.
cast out of 109 countries? It must not be a coincidence.
Hardpoint located. Hardpoint locked down.
No. Oh my
Hardpoint active. Hardpoint
Hostile shooter.
hostiles have captured the hardpoint.
Watch out, they have a sniper.
Hostile counter UAV established above.
Take out this watchdog dealer.
Hardpoint locked down. Hostiles have the hardpoint.
Take out this
Hardpoint
watchdog dealer.
identified. Hardpoint is active. Hardpoint is secure.
From your perspective, it's not attacking.
Hostiles have captured the hardpoint.
It's a situation.
It's like, in my opinion, somewhat repulsive the way that.
Hardpoint locked down.
Crazy.
Get back here.
Enemy RCXD detected.
Software was like weird about it.
Hostiles have the hardpoint. Hardpoint is secure.
What happened on your situation?
Hardpoint located.
Bag, this Jew-bag Zionist baby killer, guys, right?
Yeah, did anyone say that? Who said that? Did I say that?
Hardpoint active. Hardpoint locked down.
The only person saying that is
Anymore.
Thought we were just
Our POV is like, fuck everybody. I don't want to hear any excuses. You're not my friend.
Using my Taking objective. Hostiles have captured the hard point. Hard point is secure.
Fans are brigading us. So
Hostiles have the hard point.
to respond in kind.
I disagree.
Molotov!
I think the most involved in this are definitely
Hard point identified. Hard point is active.
Dangerous conflation.
Hard point locked down.
Anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism, or like his mechanism of using
Hostiles have captured the hard point.
to shield himself from any sort of like valid
Hard point is
criticism
secure.
in terms of coverage around something that he considers.
Hostiles have the hard point.
Absolutely pointed to this. In on it, as a matter of fact.
Hard point locked down. Hostiles have captured the hard point. Hard point located.
From this,
Hostile RCXD in your AO.
you're attacking her in relation so much work.
Hard point active. Hostiles have the hard point.
Molotov, going out!
It's not worse than anything you've seen.
Literally no.
Very nasty. Well, I'm just saying, people like
Your tactics aren't working. Find another way.
But like he called her fat, right, and ugly.
After wake-up calls, members of his community that
Hard point identified.
what about me?
Hard point is active. Hostiles have captured the hard point. Hard point is secure. Hostiles have the hard point. Net call. Enemy watchdog helo inbound.
Maybe even repercussions that might come.
Hostile LDBR drop detected.
Moving without danger.
Report to the nearest extraction point. I have to make a call.
Horrible, because it made me feel as though people were just completely oblivious to what was actually unfolding.
And in closing, I will reiterate no ambiguity about it. Anissa and I
We got movement.
down completely. We hope that the event is a massive success this
5
year.
in a
We
row.
hope that all the fighters get what they wanted out of it. I'm sorry that I'm such a nasty person who just wants to roll around in the I will put the link to Creator Clash down in the description if you want to support them in their mission to get creators to fight and raise money for charity. You can do that down there. I will be doing that on my own, and I hope you guys have a good time.
The good guy in this situation, of a charity event, right? Yeah, of course, for purely personal reasons too. We're gonna be doing a little bit of a debate, a recap, and fun day as well. But like, come on, let's be real. Let's be real. Let's be real. You expected this to happen. I mean, I have to do a recap, right? Like, I mean, it's been crazy. We had 120,000 people tuning in here yesterday, 130 almost, and another 100K on the other side. Asmongold, like this is the thing that a lot of people actually watched. It was the most unemployed Super Bowl of all time, and obviously, I'm going to be talking about that. I'm going to be talking about some aspects of it because, like, I do feel apologetic because I do feel, in some ways, I feel kind of sad because I like my goal yesterday, as you guys probably noticed, or you probably heard ahead of time, because I kept saying it over and over again.
Overdrive. Another day in paradise, Flex.
Moments.
Target.
I stood. I stood 10 toes down and certainly redirected the conversation. But there were definitely saying things and then moving on. About those things, and there I pulled it up, but it was very.
Sniper.
Ultimately, he did most of the work, making himself look a certain way to the onlookers. But I do believe that, like this is, I believe personally, I have a very high bar here for myself. That I wanted to clear the in terms of actually getting to the issues that matter and not letting anything get away with by, saying things like. Admitting to it being a genocide, because his behavior did not make sense. His behavior was inconsistent.
Hey, incoming lethal!
But I don't know what it looked like on the other side. My audio was not great. So that's something that I have to when we're doing Zoom, it's impossible to change the audio, so I cranked up. Wait, it's probably still blown out, actually. I cranked
RCXD
up
rolling up.
audio on my end, but like Zoom bricked it. Lamau, audio not great, Lamau. How did that happen? You got torsion.
Hey, incoming lethal! Alpha, Tango, the battle words.
Say stuff like this. Obviously, that's not the case. Seeing a lot of these yours, and also a person that is like totally that you've lost me as a fan, and it's like, dude, we know, like, it's fine.
Archangel going hot.
Push through!
Confirming kill. You're planning on giving up. Do it now. You're done. Get to work.
No, what is copium?
Archangel going hot. Driving RTXD. Archangel going hot. Guess I chose the wrong people for the job. My
I'm
bad.
too old to be playing these fucking games.
Are either already committed Zionist genocide lovers or anime gaming addicts who spend the 10 years over being too many black people in video games. Yeah. Exactly.
Enemy KIA.
Much more. He would not let me move on to a topic that actually matters. Some in Asma's chat want you to be deported. I'm more American than they are, baby. Yeah. I think a real moderator would do a lot better. It's not really doing any moderating and had your send clips to Ethan to be on screen. Yeah. Yeah, the structure of it wasn't great. I mean, all things considered, I think that it was, I don't think that I did a poor job. Make no mistake. I'm just being, even in the most hypercritical even being the most hypercritical of myself, regardless of the way that Ethan presented himself, I still wanted to do something here. And the thing I wanted to do was like not cheapen this discussion. And I basically said that last night as well in the aftermath of the debate, where I said like I felt like I prostituted myself, where I did succumb to the whims of Ethan making this about petty drama. But in terms of like getting Ethan to admit certain things that basically destroy a lot of what he had said prior. I mean, I'm diving into it. I didn't even blast off yet. Let me just blast off and then we'll get into it. You slept like a baby in your race car bed, which is somehow known. Yeah, I don't know why he kept saying I have a race car bed. I think he might be mistaking me with Ludwig for thinking I have a race car bed, because I think Ludwig had a race car bed when he was doing his me and the boys got together to try to figure out what was going on, you know? And I think he thinks...
Kill confirmed.
Oh, okay.
Green light. Go, go, go.
There was a lot of moments where he was just like...
Oh, I see you.
Erroneous claims and then walking... Move on.
There's an enemy shooter.
He dies.
Yeah.
Tactical incoming.
We've taken control.
Shared as a shared experience. It's like a very weird thing to do. Bye. How you expected they be? Yeah.
Incoming lethal.
Anti-Semite, worse than Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes, which is what he said.
We definitely don't have this stuff in jail.
Conversation that we had,
Hostile UAV established overhead.
Can we take a break?
Enemy UAV inbound. Enemy
I'm here to answer the calls of duty. Call of duty? Call of duty. Hostile force spotted. Hey, incoming lethal! Enemy field upgrade. Not good. Call it a torture. Look out! I am Seth Rogen, motherfuckers! Maybe I should not have smoked before entering heavy combat, but oh well. There's an enemy shooter!
Your UAV has been destroyed.
I go back and forth on anti-Semitic because of the way he's presented himself. I think he's just I still land on him.
Tactical incoming! I could probably turn the... Hey, incoming lethal! Push through!
So I don't know why.
Enemy field upgrade. Not good.
Get a UAV in the air.
Arguments. None of these are counter arguments.
Tactical.
You gonna let a bunch of company assholes beat you? Fight back, damn it!
Hey, incoming lethal! I hope I don't die. That would be super not good.
In most of these situations, and if you noticed throughout the conversation, okay, but if you notice, the only moments where I unwind is not when
Requesting recon away. They're the CIA. You think they were just gonna let you walk all over them?
year-long conquest to deplatform pro-Palestinian voices. And that was the only
I am not made for ceramics.
maybe it was to like pop back at him. I don't know why he made fun of me stuttering once. Like, dude, I don't make fun of you for having Tourette's. That would be ableist, right? Like that is an incredibly ableist thing to do. Even if this is like a totally different way to approach it, right? Like you're the way that you're carrying yourself is manic, not because of your Tourette's, but instead it's because of the things you're saying. And I think potentially he was trying to get me. He was trying to goad me maybe to like respond in kind, so he could be like, "You're being ableist" or something like that. At no point did he do that to Sammy. Of course not. That would look even more ridiculous. Destiny?
What?
Ethan, I don't think
Hassan?
I didn't bring up Destiny. You did.
By your authority, I will decide who's hallucinating. Hassan. Want to do propaganda, remember?
Ethan.
Hassan. Please, calm down. You're getting worked up.
I don't know why you're behaving in such a childish manner. Ethan, I don't think... Anyway, he did that a lot. But yeah, Ethan Klein, regarding the zone of interest comparison, so you're saying everyone living in Israel is living next to a concentration camp? Hassan, yes. Yeah, of course. But again, I know you are still not assuming good faith from Ethan after yesterday. You're too good, King. No, I don't. I did not even expect him to be that good faith in general. I just didn't expect how bad faith he would get. But it doesn't matter because like people who watched it, who already had preconceived notions of Israel Palestine, that have found themselves in this unique slotting ideologically, where they think like Israel's doing a genocide, but also everyone that's resisting against said genocide are also bad. This is an interesting position that American liberals have because of the endless amount of Islamophobic sentiment, the endless amount of Western chauvinism that has been baked into their collective consciousness. Every single militancy, every single organization, every single standing military that has ever resisted against Western forces is always in the wrong until time has passed and they've maybe won some concessions or liberated their country, at which point it's appropriate. But while it's happening, while we're in the process, it's the age-old adage: liberals are for every civil rights movement except the current one. Liberals are for every single anti-war movement except the current one. And that's basically what it is. And there's a lot of weaponization of this kind of attitude from Ethan, whether inadvertently or deliberately. Yeah, people go, IDF and Hamas are in the wrong. It's not a hard concept, but it actually is an incredibly unnuanced position to take, because no, they're not both in the wrong. It's not a hard concept. One is a significantly worse group than the other, the IDF being the significantly worse group. Okay, that's it. And the reality of the matter is, many people don't want to recognize that, even though it is objectively true. The IDF is far worse a group than Hamas ever could be, whether it is the logistical prowess that they have, or even the fact that with all of the overwhelming power that they have done so much destruction to the Palestinian population, a civilian population. This is why I kept saying over and over again, this is why I kept repeating over and over again that, like, this is...
Face off team deathmatch. Destroy the enemy.
Kelly, 12. He would have changed his opinion of her for the worse. That was absolutely insane. I know. Much later, a liberation movement was. I just got here. So sorry if you went over. Can you? No, I have without.
Yet.
Probably would be better.
I don't shut you!
Even the American operation, thousands of miles away from the American border, by the way.
We're winning. Keep it that way.
Get out! Sniper! Sniper! Hostile Molotov!
If you look at it, and what they are doing with that they absolutely
Enemies rearmed! Sniper smoke! Move, move! Get out! Frag! Eyes on shot! Mover!
I'm not a swimmer in Call of Duty. I don't want to swim. It's dumb. It's all slow. You can't breathe. It's stupid. Stay out the water. Thank you. Message of the day.
Crimson Axle to we're coming for you.
Let's get juicy. Let's go, Crash.
Enemies rearmed!
Keep forgetting not to throw Molotovs into the water. They don't want to do all the water.
Enemy deleted!
He's mad. ain't that bad. Is definitely a psychopath map. But I kind of like it. Oh.
Grenade! Going back.
Watch. I'm gonna turn the mic off because it keeps saying.
Subscriber understands my position on this, because there is no against the apartheid that is maintained by the Israeli occupiers. Problem. And no matter what happens, when you just terrorism. That's it. And for a lot of people who don't want to examine the situation because at the end of the day they still have
Not much time left. Put this to bed.
they're always going to look at this and go leads people into this weird for 76 years, but you shouldn't do anything. You can't do anything against it. Something against it are actually they're anti-gay, washing.
Get out! Back!
There's a mole of them. Find them. They were already dead. Just hadn't realized. Good job.
Hell yeah! That's how it's done!
Other regional actors that are far more powerful than they are because they're being backed.
Nothing more!
Conceive of the idea of having unrelated people he doesn't see Palestinians.
Get out! Back! Back down!
The guy banned for like 7 days because he said Palestinians are a inferior culture that deserves to be genocided are going to wait, hold on. I'm DMing Chris back on TikTok. Yeah, the guy who got banned for 14 days is going to, of course, be inherently to my position. The debate was emotionally exhausting to watch because Ethan reminded me all the times I had to defend myself against a narcissist. I know. A lot of people also infer like their own personal hangups or shortcomings or interpersonal experiences that they've had off of this kind of thing. And I think that's ultimately very parasocial on both ends, you know? What about how many times he pulled up a clip that proved your argument or disproved his? See, that's the other side of this. Like, what is shocking about this? What is shocking about many of the instances? I will say this. Here, if you guys want to know, like, two of the areas that I think were, I'll give you what the areas that I think were just like super dominant throughout the entire conversation, and I'll tell you what my biggest L's were. Okay, in terms of the areas where my biggest, I guess, quote unquote W's were. There are, I believe, around 7, if not more, instances where Ethan basically agreed to my position and even went as far as to apologize for things that he has done in the past. So that's fairly significant. Most of it was from the context nuke, and I think that that's not something to just like lightly cast aside, especially considering that this is supposed to be his pivotal work that he put a lot of effort and research into. There's also obviously many concessions he gave, which I think don't make sense when you factor in the way he has behaved in the past 15 months of this ongoing genocide. But there was also a bunch of instances where he basically admitted, yes, yeah, like, I was wrong and I smeared you, which I thought was interesting. I didn't know really how to deal with that, but I don't think anybody actually cares on Team Ethan. It didn't come across like Ethan genuinely gave those concessions to you and instead only said it to move on since he kept saying he was bored of you. Yeah, but like there are so many moments where he just like instantly contradicted himself, where he was like, well, I don't Destiny directly. Okay, you talked to his podcast co-host who is engaged in a blackmail operation against people who have like come out against Destiny in his like sex pest case. Right? Like, what do you mean? He uses that same community. He's his best friend. That is not like you've worked alongside him on numerous occasions, like, or even with the ADL example.
Overdrive. Earn elimination medals to increase your combo score.
Of breaking the silence. Former Israeli occupying force veterans. So, I've interviewed people who are people that have been conscientious objectors.
Molotov going out!
Someone who's 18 years
We have a force and infiltrator. Watch your back.
Target smoke! Move, move! Any more? Molotov incoming!
consider this to be a so only care about the drama aspect. Concentrate on your own personal feelings. So clearly, in order to try to pierce that veil, in order to try to penetrate into their well, we don't know what they did. We don't know. It doesn't make sense within the logical. According to international law, that settlers are valid never has to
Thought this was over?
believe that settlers.
The lead is on. Sexual. And then the other conversation that I think got lost in the weeds. Stay alert. Marshall's people are no fools.
On the point about
Stand down, Crimson. We have what it came for.
Oh, hell yeah! That's how it's done!
because I think one of the main points of contention here always Ethan will present expulsions of Jewish people or pogroms of Jewish people, especially in the aftermath of 1948, especially in the aftermath of the Nakba. This is something that I have talked about as well over and over and over again. But the problem, but the problem with the Ethan's framework wasn't that there's two problems with Ethan's framework. One, that he believes that I'm that Jews were involved in this process in surrounding Arab nations. I'm not denying that at all. What I'm simply stating is that the trigger point of this all is the Nakba, which is a planned and executed deliberate ethnic cleansing campaign, which is done by one singular ideology, as opposed to the reaction of that from surrounding Arab nations cannot be attributed, cannot be compared to one another, especially when you factor in the reality that some of these surrounding Arab nations and MENA nations weren't even autonomous at that point. They were literally under the rulership of Vichy France at a certain point, or they were literally under the rulership or under the control of England at a certain point. So the notion that these countries had this organic or, collective, hive-minded anti-Semitism that manifested and exploded is utterly ridiculous. It's into a planned mass expulsion campaign. And the has nothing to do with surrounding Arab nations in any way, shape, or form regardless. These are totally separate countries. But the reality of the matter is he could not see beyond the fact that they were Arabs. He could not see beyond the fact that these are all Arab nations and they were all Arabs that did this. It was the anti-Semitism of Arabs that caused Jews to become Zionist, which I think is ridiculous. He was reacting as if trauma is binary, yes, no, rather than realizing the scale and scope of these things are vastly different, as well as avoid talking about who was responsible for the infliction of those traumas as well. Yeah. And I think a bastardization of Avi Shlaim's perspective to drive home that point, because he got someone to basically clip from his latest book and his commentary key points that make it seem as though Avi Shlaim's ultimate perspective is that Arabs were forced to become Zionist is I think a great misunderstanding of a historian that has spent most of his work talking against that. Okay, his big point is, you know how there's a double Holocaust or a double genocide theory that a lot of neo-Nazis immediately implemented in the aftermath of World War II? This is known by scholars of history as the double genocide theory, that the USSR also did a genocide, and actually their genocides were far larger in scale and number, and therefore they are the worst party in World War II. It's a way to try to whitewash and launder the reputation of Germany, Nazi Germany. A similar perspective took place in Ethan's commentary, which is the double Nakba almost. Yeah, here's Spencer Gabb saying, I read the first two chapters of The Three Worlds after the debate. Avi Shlaim literally describes the fallacy of a double Nakba like this. The purpose of this narrative is to create a false symmetry between the fate of the two communities. The narrative is not history, it is propaganda of the victors. Read this excerpt highlighted from the same Avi Shlaim Ethan misquoted. Yeah, this is from Three Worlds. And this is from the program.
Use of deadly force has been approved.
Make sense of
Hostiles have captured the hardpoint.
as such, is divorced from his wider region.
Hardpoint locked down.
Zionists are only obsessively interested in the first phase of the Arab revolution. They are profoundly uninterested in the second. Interested in the first phase is driven not by the search for truth, but by propaganda need to portray the Jews as victims of the endemic Arab persecution.
Hostiles have the hardpoint.
Atrocious treatment of the Palestinians.
They've taken the lead.
Ammunition. Palestinians.
Start incoming!
850,000 Jews from Arab countries after 1948 amounted to a catastrophe.
Eyes on enemy!
A Jewish
Hardpoint
Nakba,
located.
at least on
Hardpoint active.
There's never been a moment where I have
Hardpoint is secure. Hostiles have captured the hardpoint.
especially during the period where countries that had at the time in an effort to develop sovereignty and nation states, even though they previously were under for example, they didn't do that, and that was a big part of this nationalist movement that created these nation states to begin with. Nation states whose boundaries were carefully constructed by Western superpowers. Okay?
Hardpoint
Honest
identified.
history has to acknowledge the part played by all the governments concerned in causing this man-made tragedy. The main difference is that the Palestinian refugees, for the most part, whereas the Arab
Hardpoint
Jews,
is active. Hostiles have the hardpoint.
the option of leaving or staying. My book is both a personal record of a complex past and a critique of Zionism, rarely heard outside of Israel. So his pivotal work that Ethan was misquoting, unironically, that Ethan I will have Avi Shlaim on. I'm working on it right now with some of my friends. Words.
Hardpoint locked down.
Steady for 2 weeks.
Enemy RCXD detected.
Get out, Brad! Incoming shot!
Located.
Sniper smoke! Move, move!
Throwing RCXD.
Hardpoint active.
Recon above! Hostile impact!
Anything that I've ever said. It's the second thing that they'll always do is
Let's go!
UAV MTL 50%. Check.
I said it myself. This is not a secret. If it was a secret, you would have encountered this.
Priority tasking request received. UAV exiting your grid.
And in that conversation,
Taking fire!
Hardpoint identified.
from a liberal perspective, I hope people understand. This is akin to the de-radicalization
Hostile shooter!
that I partake in.
Hardpoint is active.
Liberalized version.
Hardpoint is secure.
Right wingers. It's the same principle. Agitated
Hostiles have captured the hardpoint.
people and the existence of trans people, and I try to show them that no, it's actually a byproduct of the system that we exist under, capitalism. That's agitated.
Taking fire!
I know it. In and of itself is just a story. Okay, this is not something that I show. This is not something that I hide. Even misuses my honesty in there.
Hardpoint located.
People to think, oh, he's
They're walking all over you. Have some goddamn pride. Hardpoint active.
Look, I have my biases, and I will.
Hostiles have the hardpoint. Hardpoint locked down.
Molotov going out! Throwing tactical!
What the biases of mainstream institutions
Hostiles have captured the hardpoint.
develop a
Grenade out!
where they're coming from, what they choose to emit. This is it. This is my job. If they were to be duped,
Tackle, get a watchdog helo overhead. Archangel, going in. Hardpoint identified. Hardpoint is active. Hardpoint is secure. Hostiles have the hardpoint.
Sniper, find cover!
the hard point.
The Israeli government behaved the way that it has and historically behaved the way that it has. The problem with the denominator audience responds to quick gotchas and I hate any nuance. I mean, it doesn't matter. I think that there was plenty of quick gotchas as well. It's just like that. It's one that I was able to achieve.
Hard point located.
Plenty of. The problem is no one.
Rest and recuperate. Tomorrow you'll be running drills until you drop.
Moving evac point. Situation's full bar.
Conquest of like their favorite content creator, or maybe not even their favorite content creator, but like content creator that's going up against their content creator.
Took them out.
That's why I saw this phenomenon. Neo-Nazi accounts. Decline. A Jewish man,
Snipers down.
right?
Move.
So many out and about neo-Nazi accounts on Twitter that were like, this Jew destroyed the Islamo-Turk, like that. And the conversation revolved around him saying that like this, the bleach sword was anti-Semitic. Was anti-Semitic. Like these are not conversations that neo-Nazis would normally entertain at all. The reason why they were entertaining it was precisely because they like, oh, this is it. This is what I was literally talking about. Literal, actual neo-Nazis handshaking with Ethan Piker coming back from the debate with H3H3. His name is Haya Saka Aryan, Kaguya's top gal, a straightforward neo-Nazi, right? Like, does this not ring any alarm bells in Ethan's mind as a person who is Jewish, who has Jewish children, who is seeing the growth of anti-Semitism on the timeline, not realizing that these guys actually are more invested, perhaps for some nefarious purpose, in undermining me and my position here? I wonder what that reason is. I wonder why so many people who will spam W Hitler in chats are on board with what Ethan was saying. I don't think that any of these guys are going to recognize this, though. I think at this point, it's because it's so hyper specific to Ethan's own anger. And for guys like this, I don't think this person likes Ethan. I mean, they're a neo-Nazi, right? Like, they probably spot Ethan. Many of the content creators, the drama slop tubers, have actually shit on Ethan quite frequently and generated tens of millions of views off of shit on Ethan. Sometimes anti-Semitically shit on Ethan as well.
Team deathmatch.
Why
Neutralize all threats.
With Ethan? Is it because my argument is awful and I am just completely wrong? Is it because they disagree? Is it because they side where they also believe that Israel's committing a genocide, but also all the
Sniper, take off!
about it? No, it's because this is an opportunity for them to try and actively undermine the position of someone who they see as an ideological opponent. And they do not see Ethan as an ideological opponent in this regard. This would be akin to if I were to go out and align myself with the likes of Myron Gaines. Okay? That is what this would look like. Myron Gaines presents himself as being pro-Palestine, but he's a neo-Nazi. This would be akin to if I align myself with Candace Owens and then said, look, Candace Owens has found out that Ethan is so stupid or some shit like that. That is what this would look like. If the role reversal here, if Ethan welcomes a lot of these hateful people that have actually turned their crosshairs on him over and over and over again, this community doesn't recognize that they're now welcoming these kinds of reactionary sentiments, and that's not ringing any alarm bells for them. It would be akin to me.
We got the lead. Now hold it.
Myself with aligning myself and Candace Owens, right? Or Jim Bilzerian. These are people with massive audiences. Myself with them. Their positions as well. Do you see what I mean? It's something that I don't think the drama girlies will actually understand it.
Here's KIA.
That is a major issue here. Can I say the Twitter accounts of people I'm seeing defending either on countries are filled with these gross anti-black
This
tweets,
shit ain't
constant
working.
slurs,
We've
praising
lost the
worst
advantage.
creators on the internet, Nazi dog whistles makes me comfortable. Only Lord can reply to this now. Ethan's allegiance was some of the worst reactionaries online because it's so odd. The sexual assault argument was the worst one to me as a survivor, but I've heard you talk about it, so I know where you're coming from. It did sexual assault with his ass, but watching your
Hey, someone should make a movie about this. Or even better, someone should make a video game about this.
There.
Oh, wait.
But the short and sweet of it on that one was the shocking display of disingenuous.
Push through! Wow, I am way too blazed for this right now.
Atrocity propaganda that Israel has committed when saying
Hostile UAV established overhead.
throughout all kinds of settler colonial conquest. This is what the
Enemy
Americans
RCXD
said
detected.
about the indigenous population, right? This is what the Klan said about black people. This is what you have to dehumanize your opponent in order to justify to the
This is a weird career pivot for me.
you are going to subject them to is totally permissible. Savages. It is a trope for a particular reason. It is unironically
Sending
the
stun.
weaponization of sexual assault. The reason why I also found it particularly gross was because he demonstrated that he didn't even care about what I was saying, or he didn't even care about what anyone was saying in that regard. Simply was just like, oh, you're going to speak over this victim? You're going to speak over this victim? When in fact, the video that he showed of me prior to the victim speaking out was literally me recognizing said victim. There's never been a moment where I've said that there was no rapes that took place, that especially after October 7. I've always maintained the position that there is a likelihood that sexual assaults might have happened on October 7. But the problem here is that Israel has actually destroyed the evidence and made it impossible. And his counter to that was, oh, out of the dignity for the victims, there was no time for forensic examination. And that's ridiculous because you want justice to be served for the victims. That's what I was saying. I wasn't saying like it's not rape unless it's like prosecutable in court, pics or it didn't happen. And that's what a lot of people are saying in terms of my conversation around circumstantial evidence. The circumstantial evidence in this regard is not the same kind of circumstantial evidence you see in criminal litigation in an American court. This is a preliminary investigation that is supposed to open up the door to a full-blown investigation by the United Nations. That investigation has been blocked of Israel. That is what I was maintaining here. And the reason why it's important to note that is because a lot of the circumstantial evidence that they've actually brought forward in the UN report, by Israel's own admission, has now been undermined through forensic examination. I'll give you an example. It's like when you saw these gruesome images, when you saw gruesome images from October 7, and people pointed to them to say like, no, this person is being raped. This person has been raped. And then those people, the ones that weren't actually killed in the process, came out and said that that did not happen to them. This directly undermines and showcases the importance of going beyond circumstantial evidence in terms of like analysis of footage. Okay? Especially when considering that there was plenty of atrocities that took place on October 7. I've never discounted that. It is one of the most horrifying live-streamed massacres before what Israel did, of course, which is infinitely more horrifying than October 7, considering what Israel's been doing is a systematic, full-blown execution of all Palestinians and their lives in the Gaza Strip with significantly more sophisticated machinery. But having said that, considering that this was almost entirely live streamed, there was a lot of evidence that instantly undermined secondhand accounts that took place on that day. Okay, but like I said, as far as Ethan utilizing this, like weaponizing sexual assault, it was so insane to me that he went to that length, especially considering that I'm of course able to hearing his position on this. If there's something that I'm oblivious to in terms of all of the reading that I have done on the mass systematized mass
You're falling
rape
behind,
conducted by
Crimson.
Hamas on October 7th. Showcased the courage shown by someone who I also actually undermined the testimony of. Shoshana, I believe, is her name. And the victim that he pointed to was one that I had prior to that. And then he claimed that she actually from October 7th. This is an important distinction to make. And he basically tried to present this as like, he tried to present this as like me denying rapes, when in fact, I was talking about a totally different subject. When people say believe all women, that understand that's
Hostile
the whole
UAV
point of
established
Me Too
overhead.
is to not reflexively disbelieve women. That's what some people do. There's never been a moment where I've reflexively disbelieved a victim that came out. My question to Ethan was, who are these victims? You might know something that I do not know from all of the books that I have read on this.
Enemy deleted!
Didn't, if you noticed, names with the exception
Recon, requesting recon overhead.
of someone who I had also recognized. And the secondary position that I have maintained at a certain point, also recognized that he went back on, is the fact that endless amount of, even if there's an endless amount of evidence and it's like verifiable, there have been mass rapes that took place, Israel's reaction is still unjustifiable. You cannot do a genocide. You cannot do
We're
a
winning.
genocide on an
Keep it
entire
that way.
population that you are the belligerent occupier of, because the process could nothing genocide acceptable. That is my position. That is always been during the rape comment, yeah. That conversation.
Sniper smoke! Buried!
In the aftermath. That on live stream fails and all these other subreddits that they actually brigade to say. And I made sure that every single part of that conversation say you are. He admitted to lying.
Hostile subject.
He admitted to literally lying.
I was raped. Saying I was raped.
But you're sick. Shoshana, which was also his own admission, but she openly admitted to lying about it. The fact that this escapes people, because in the aftermath of that segment, he openly recognized that
Enemy UAV inbound.
he actually smeared me as someone.
Sniper! Find cover!
If you think that in itself what you have to say, but you can make it up when you respond. Well, there's not anything I can do in terms of clips because the part about this that I find unconscionable it seem as though the testimony that she delivered was one that I was actually diminishing when it was one that I actually had recognized. But then he turned around
Eyes on it!
over 7, and there were victims that had come out. There have not once again, and I'm especially in the conversation. I think
Requesting recon above.
plenty of atrocities that Israel could which is precisely the reason why they engaged in atrocities, right? 40 beheaded babies lit on fire, and all of this stuff that took they did that was these are real victims that were slaughtered, right? So obviously, if you're Israeli media, you have to give their family members the dignity of understanding what took place. That's why a lot of that work actually was without any sort of counter position.
Count the UAV above.
Backed systematized rapes that took place on October 7th.
Catch me, eyes in the sky.
There's a high likelihood of rapes taking place, not systematized, but rapes taking place. What I said as well over and over.
Hold the line, Crimson. This is ours to lose.
Event. Having said that, any sort of real investigation
Taking fire!
initial narratives is and that is the propaganda to justify the genocide. Why did you not bring up a solution to systematic sexual violence? Wait, I did bring that up. Anyway, the reason why I brought up the 40 beheaded babies and flame babies.
You made it look easy, Crimson.
Oh, hell yeah! That's how it's done!
Recognized as propaganda that did not take place.
They went on a mission to kill whoever they can, no matter who it is.
You can see their war plans. Specifically, you can see kill the inhabitants there. Those are not.
That's not real. It's just like why is that still happening? You know what I mean? Why are people still saying that? This is supposed to be an anti-genocide broadcast. Like, do you see what I mean? This doesn't make sense with the attitude that Ethan demonstrated, or at least like yesterday.
And more first-hand accounts. There's even a person that the Nova disaster. They managed to survive it, and then I think maybe a year later or a few months later, they ended up committing suicide because they couldn't bear to live having seen what they saw on that day.
Is there more than one person that committed suicide?
It might be more. For some reason, I don't know the exact number. I know there's for sure one that I know for sure, but there might be more. And I mean, the kind of stuff that they saw was like rape, gang rape,
mutilation, torture.
Yeah. So they had to witness that and could not bear.
Yeah. So this is like
they weren't first.
This is Gila Klein claiming that a No Festival survivor saw rape and gang rape killed themselves because they couldn't deal with the trauma. She cites as a part of her regurgitation of the genocidal atrocity propaganda, saying there's so much evidence for it. She's referring to a suicide letter that was posted online claiming this over 6 months ago, which has been debunked as a hoax by Israeli reporters a day after it came out. Even Hen Mazik and other Zionist propagandists who shared this initial report were forced to retract it 6 months after the fact that this suicide letter was revealed to be a hoax and was retracted by Israeli media. Gila is still using it as a point in her commentary to to justify all the things that unfolded. This is what I mean. Here it is. This is Adam Shafir. A story that ran in recent days about a Nova survivor who saw horrors and committed suicide did not leave a single dry eye. After trying to reach the family to tell their story, the search turned into an investigation. We will reveal tonight in the tube that it is a complete fake. It is not clear what brings people to invent like this, but to cheapen the real plight of survivors and to play with the story is disgusting. Do you understand? Weaponization of sexual trauma is a real weaponization of fabricated stories. There are plenty of people who literally apologized and retracted their story with she was still saying it. She was still repeating it. Okay?
38 rounds ain't so bad.
Yesterday, a lot of the pro-Israeli outlets, what did they do? Here in the United States of America, what did they do? They claimed that Mohsen Mahdawi was actually a terrorist. Mohsen Mahdawi, the student activist, who is a pacifist that was recently released from a detention facility in Vermont after being detained during a naturalization ceremony for the quote-unquote crime of being pro-Palestine and a student activist. What did New York Post and all these other propaganda rags put out about him? They literally clipped nefariously a court case, an accusation in a court case about him going up to random people and saying how much he wanted to kill Jews with an automatic rifle. There was an FBI investigation that was conducted into it, and the investigation actually revealed that this was unsubstantiated. It was ridiculous fucking made-up bullshit. And yet they clip the part that the FBI investigation undermines that point, and yet they ran with that regardless. It's just lying. That's all this is. So, for the record, with Amit Sosana and her testimony,
given up the lead.
Get out!
As well, Nazis themselves have done similar things, like Bloody Sunday. The Klan has done similar things with mass lynchings that took place, and race riots, or rather not race riots, but like pogroms that took place against Black Wall Street. The bombing of Tulsa, if you recall, the bombing of Tulsa revolved around the same old tropes about how black men are violent, promiscuous, sexual beings, and then it was elevated. That pre-existing stereotype, that white supremacist stereotype, was utilized in the bombing of Black Wall Street, in the bombing of Tulsa. Okay, Emmett Till's another example. Like, this is precisely why I think it's important to also carefully go through these claims that are being made. And I think Ethan, on the other hand, was incredibly careless in the claims that he was making, especially when he literally found himself in a lie and openly admitted that he was lying about my analysis over the subject matter. But it didn't even matter to him to openly state that he was lying and smearing me, as he did in real time on this issue, because he knew that ultimately there would be clips that would get pumped all over the fucking timeline to continue the narrative, act like Ethan had actually presented real information. The only verifiable claim that he put forth was literally a claim that I also had read through and had kept repeating over and over again. Bloody Sunday was a sequence of violent events that took place in Bromberg, a Polish city with a sizable German minority between the 3rd and 4th of September 1939 during the German invasion of Poland. Standing in the path of the German army's advance during the early days of the invasion, tensions quickly escalated in Bromberg between the city's sizable German-speaking minority and its Polish majority. On the 3rd of September, as the Wehrmacht was preparing to assault the city, members of the German minority working in conjunction with the German intelligence agency attacked the Polish garrison. Polish soldiers and civilians reacted with violent reprisals against ethnic Germans, who in turn reacted with more violence. A Polish investigation concluded in 2004 that approximately 40 to 50 Poles, between 100 and 300 Germans were killed. The term Bloody Sunday was applied to the events by Nazi propaganda officials who highlighted and exaggerated German casualties. An instruction issued to the press said, "Must show news on the barbarism of Poles against the Germans in Bromberg. The expression Bloody Sunday must enter a permanent term in the dictionary and circumnavigate the globe. For that reason, this term must be continuously underlined." Approximately 200 to 400 Polish hostages were shot in a mass execution in the aftermath of the fall of the city on the 5th of September. Additionally, 50 Polish prisoners of war from Bromberg were accused by Nazi summary courts of taking part in Bloody Sunday and shot. The reprisals compounded violence stemming from the German attempts to pacify the city and the premeditated murder of notable Poles as a part of Operation Tannenberg. As a part of the latter, the Germans murdered 1,200 to 3,000 Polish civilians in Bromberg in a part of the city that became known as the Valley of Death. That's it.
More sniper. Boom! Hostile throwing impact grenade. Overdrive.
I don't even know why you would ever do that. So
Tactical incoming! Hey, tactical incoming!
Knock us down.
as far as 4 years.
Yeah, watch it!
Food items such as quinoa and cornmeal, causing over $1,500 in damages. The system revealed that every company engaging in this behavior since at least 2021 multiple stores in
God, is that blood? Nobody told me there would be blood.
But Kelly was arrested after someone spotted him in a food store.
Nice. I'm pulling ahead.
Peeing on food.
You're falling behind.
The tragedy takes itself out. Straight up fascinating use of free will. Anxious if someone
Lost the lead.
DoorDash. We'll get into that in a little bit because after releasing my original video, my DMs on Instagram were flooded. Apparently,
Lead
the grocery
dive.
store is just
Hey, it's coming, Lethal!
what a vile human being. Like, why would you ever
Hey,
do
it's coming!
Is that too much to ask for? We spent what?
$990 on defense last year. But
Come on, you're losing this fight.
from Kelly Tedford here. So I guess.
Hey, incoming Lethal! Push through! Tactical incoming! Try talking it out. Instead of the whole fighting and shooting thing. Maybe the higher I get, the better I shoot. Hey, incoming Lethal! Hey, incoming Lethal! Watch it! Hey, incoming Lethal!
Worst charges than she got because in district court she probably would have gotten some risk, maybe some probation, community service, a fine.
We'll be talking about this on my podcast. I'll tell you later.
What's going on with this?
You know, this will be fast. I mean, it's a small breakdown. In New Hampshire. Besides, yeah. toilet tank, not the bowl. For a while, and someone has. I don't even know how to.
Upgrade destroyed.
She's obviously still facing that. Well, and what makes things worse is the police still. She's also using. So I can only imagine his face read the case that he was assigned. Whatever.
Back up, back up. You want to get out of this line? You better step up.
Incoming lethal!
This would probably be a sigh of massive relief for the people of Keene, New Hampshire.
Enemy Molotov!
I don't believe in bad luck. Just bad aim.
I am
Get
too old
back,
to be
sir.
playing these fucking games.
Document the end of the P woman's career. And while what she did is very disgusting, whoever is out there funding this behavior taking place because she had like 5 new charges drop on her. That's life, I guess. And also, massive shout out to Madcaster for going out there with me and being extremely helpful with answering all my questions to this case, because he's actually a licensed and practicing attorney out there. So I'm gonna put his channel in the description down below, and YouTube, they think you'll enjoy this video, so I recommend checking that out. And hey, if you're new here, feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. And remember, if we get 50,000 likes, I'll try to go to the next Kelly Tedford trial. But yeah, until then, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.
I think the most embarrassing part is like Ethan constantly looking at his laptop to ask ChatGPT, to ask his, I don't know, friends for advice. And it's so transparent, Ethan. We can see what you're doing because you will throw in the gotcha, but you don't actually know how to deliver it. So you just say a sentence that doesn't make any sense in the middle. You literally do the, here's a blowjob. Here's a blowjob. Huh? You want me to actually make the point? Well, I don't know. I was just told to bring that up. It was like, what the hell? I think the best example of this is like the Anne Frank comparison, or rather the Anne Frank pacifist argument. His computer told him, push Hassan on the Anne Frank point. Tell him, like, did you really just make that comparison? I can't believe this. And then when he actually had to defend the point, he doesn't know how to defend the point.
Why is the first thing I see when I open the stream, here's a blowjob?
Here's a blowjob. He doesn't know how to defend the point, so he just says, like, I just think it's crazy. I just think it's crazy. It's like, are you gonna elaborate? Are you gonna make the point?
Every time Hassan put a clip, Ethan just paused and said, "This is boring. Let's move on." I get the point, LMAO. Like WTF.
Oh God. Oh my God. The only purpose, in my opinion, to show clips is to show someone something that they haven't seen before. And in a lot of these instances, he would show the clip and the person would be like in the Sam Cedar debate, they would respond fully and then he'd be like, you must have misunderstood it. Let me play it again. It's like, what? And then there's like a section where Ethan calls Hila a terrorist. Like, so I want to watch the first half with you guys because I think the first half is really entertaining. Like, it's really entertaining. And then the second half is like headache inducing, in my personal opinion. Also, I'm really excited for all the people to come in here and be like, I can't believe anyone here thinks Hassan won. I'm going to tell you the truth. Okay, guys? I'm going to tell you my opinion. All right? Here's my unedited, unmoderated opinion. First of all, we all lost. Okay? But more importantly, I think there were a lot of points that Hassan didn't directly respond to because the direct response to it kind of doesn't matter. And I think he had a different... And also after 4 hours of this shit, Christ.
Sex havers will just roll up on you saying blowjob?
Sorry. There were a lot of parts in this where Hassan just didn't articulate that is not relevant to the Gaza conflict. It doesn't matter. So a good example is like him talking about him bringing up Avi Shlaim like 6,000 times.
Build your combo score to earn buffs.
Here's the thing. And I'm not sure that like my brain will be fried after 3 hours.
The lead is on.
Wait. Yeah, there were a lot of parts like that where
they've taken the lead.
Like it doesn't. You recognize that even if we concede this point,
we've taken the lead. Stay on target.
From Iraq, fully, entirely, only because of anti-Semitism from.
Hostiles reclaimed the lead. Hostile UAV established overhead.
What, a pass to genocide the Palestinians? In what world does that make any sense? That doesn't even make any sense. Like, functionally, it doesn't make sense. Black Americans were enslaved by white slave owners. They were allowed to, what, retaliate by genociding white people? Functionally, that argument doesn't even make sense. You can point at these things and say, you're pretending like the state of Israel's creation was this. Let's not even argue that. You can point at this and say, yeah, but there are other important things. But like, okay, what? Every 2 seconds was so funny. The worst part, I think, okay, sorry. So summarize. In my opinion, I think that there could have been a better performance on Hassan's part, right? Yeah, obviously. Of course. But I think Hassan himself says that he's not like, he wouldn't consider himself an excellent debater or anything like that. And there were a lot of times where, for example, the example I gave with Iraqi Jews, you could address the point and then move on because you know that that's not relevant to the apartheid state in Israel. He said he didn't prep to, and he should have prepped as well. I think it was obvious to anyone who was watching that there wasn't enough prep. It's funny because Ethan prepped, but he's dumber. So more importantly, to the layman, okay, to someone who doesn't know either of these people, I promise you, the person screaming at the beginning and making funny voices and Ethan came off very unhinged for a big part of the beginning. Again, the second half of the video, I don't know how much of it I even watched, and I because I was outside. How do you prep for this loss of story? I mean, you can say, I don't know what to say. People often joke about it means that lost it because what, I'm secretly a Nazi. You know you're gonna this all can. Oh, so you talk with Simha. Like you have to try a little bit harder than that, just like a little bit harder. So you can prep for all of it because you already know what he's going to bring up because Ethan's been bringing up the same points over and over again for the past like 4 months. Or another example of like, this is when I immediately oh, dude, you should know this.
close.
You know this. The Sneeko fan heard your name spoken by March in that earlier clip, and then he didn't respond. If he was a huge fan, he would have been like, wait, Hassan is here? Oh shit, wait, really? But he didn't respond. Guess what? Because he didn't know who Hassan was. Really, you're the biggest fan of mine.
Enemy UAV inbound.
And you don't hear my name, and you don't even like blink at the thought of my name. He's too much of a pussy to debate me. He's too afraid to debate me. It is the truth. Mm-hmm. It's good to I'm not joking, guys. It's why he only debates women. Because he knows that, like, that's stupid. He can handle that. And then he would go on, like, probably honestly what he's most afraid of is going to going on a sexist tirade. And then calling him a vile whore bitch cunt for like 20 minutes straight.
Hostile, hostile.
No one saw that swastika sword. No. This is how the conversation went. Let's find some props, which you can watch at the very beginning. There's a bunch of props that powers that he uses. And then there's like the MAGA hat. They grab some like fucking dolls. Some there's a bunch of props that are being used. And one of them is a sword where he's like, oh, this would be cool. Yeah. Let's pose with the sword. No one even looked at it and was like, oh, should we use this? Yeah. No one even noticed that. Like, I don't understand how to explain this. You know how brain rotted you have to be to start seeing swastikas where there aren't swastikas? Correct. He streams for 10 hours a day. Of course he's brain rotted. You would be ready to talk about the real issue, and then he would say, okay, so let's start with the poop. So you're... Yeah, let's go with that. Let's go with, I had lots of friends because I wasn't Let's go with, I definitely wasn't drawing anime characters, and then let's go with that. It's the truth. Yeah.
Let's go!
Someone needs to bring the volume way down and okay. Yeah, I would definitely
And now explain.
Add rain.
Enemy Molotov incoming!
Any way to muffle this audio other than just like making it quiet.
They left. Out of your mind. Okay, so what the Jews in Iraq have to do with Israel? You are so out of your mind.
MTC's nearly dry. Get serious, Crimson.
That's amazing. That is beautiful. That's actually so beautiful. I need to be sat on the stairs now. I need to hear the door open. And then
Hostile RCXD in your AO.
Okay, I kind of get how ASMR artists kind of do that. It's actually good. Door. Hey, honey, I'm sorry you have to hear that. Okay? Your dad and I are just going through a rough time right now. All right. It's just he keeps insisting on being
It's driving me crazy.
Let's have fun.
It's time. Welcome to the show, everybody.
Face it, kill team. You were better than you today.
Thank you guys. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Okay.
Got you, piece of shit! Not so fast!
Are you gonna show me all?
You never saw me? I was never here.
Here, I can fix that 1 second. Let me just set it to Ethan's.
Aren't Hassan and Ethan both on the left? They should be coming here. Old man Yowie? I agree.
Okay, there you go.
Show like not just Ethan, but talk like that's fine.
Hey, Hassan, leave the production notes to my team. You can switch your show how you like.
They were my coworkers as well, Ethan.
Well, it's been a while, my friends, and guess what? They are not now.
No, I know.
So let's start. I mean, so you did this content cop, right? And I mean, did that go how you expected? It didn't seem to hit very hard.
Before we get started, can I lay some?
Wait, I might be a traitor. We might have to watch this on the H3 show because I'm pretty sure Hassan's audio was like actually cooked. Listen, Hassan is one person. He doesn't have a whole audio team and a sound team and a fucking tech team and all this other stuff. Listen, if he had an entire team helping him, that'd be different. Dude, I think this is the first H3 show to get 1 million views in like a year because they did the chat through Zoom. Oh, but they didn't show Hassan?
Starting from you and your community.
You mean they didn't show the chair? That was the other really funny part. This is what I mean when I say it doesn't matter how bad Hassan's performance was. Ethan Klein had so many insane, deranged moments that it didn't fucking matter. The I'm not going to let you chair react stream me. I'm not going to let... And it's like he's trying to play it off as a joke, but instead he looks crazy. And there's a very important distinction between Ethan Klein being crazy, which a lot of people would say that he is, and Ethan Klein coming off crazy, which even if you like Ethan, you have to understand that doesn't come off funny or joking or whatever. It comes off deranged. It comes off not great.
Now, that's my answer to that. Now, let me ask you about this.
It's time. Welcome to the show, everybody. Hassan Piker.
Hello, Hassan Piker.
What's going on?
Well,
also, the other thing with YouTube that's really nice is subtitles, which I can't have on Twitch.
Doing a debate.
Well, actually, it would be here as well. Never mind. Just the audio then.
What about you?
That's what I'm doing as well.
The race car bed joke was bad. Yeah, and it was like, yeah.
All right.
You guys get what I'm talking about.
Wait, hold on. Oh, are you going to show me all the time as well on the Zoom call?
Here, I can fix that 1 second. Let me just set it to Ethan's output here.
If you want,
there you go.
If you want, just show like not just Ethan, but yourself as well. If you're going to talk, like that's fine.
Hey,
I don't
Hassan,
know if it's gonna be too
leave the production notes to my team. You can switch your show how you like.
Well, you know, they were my coworkers as well, Ethan.
Well, it's been a while, my friends, and guess what? They are not now.
No, I know.
So let's start. I mean, so
They're my rent-a-friends.
Did this content cop, right? And I mean, did that go how you expected? It didn't seem to hit very hard.
Before we get started, can I lay some like ground rules so we can have like a productive conversation?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to come on to make this as issue specific as possible, but yes, you have grievances with me, and of course, I think they're valid to address.
Okay, good.
Of course, we'll talk about that. Hopefully, I'll be able to address some counterpoints as well, if you will allow me in that process.
Absolutely.
But before we get started on anything, I would like to potentially talk about definitions so we can have like an established definition on a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about. Is that okay with you?
I mean, it depends how many definitions you got. What do you want to define? I don't want to get bogged down in this, so let's...
I'm also experiencing audio issues on my end, so hold on one second.
No worries. No worries.
All right.
It's not like first and foremost, I think we should define what Zionism is and what you mean
Which I think this was a good call from Hassan.
Zionism and what I mean by Zionism.
Zionism is the belief that Jews should have their own homeland in the historic Palestine area. That's it.
Okay.
Wait, so by Ethan Klein's definition, he believes that he's a Zionist? Wait, then how disingenuous that you call yourself... You say that you get mad that other people call you a Zionist when you're pro-Palestine, but then you give a definition for Zionism, which you yourself would agree with. And then when other people say, well, I mean, is this not the Patrick Starr meme? Okay, what's the definition of Zionism? An ethno-state for Jews in historic Palestine. And do you subscribe to that idea? Yes. So it would be fair then to call you a Zionist. No, that's anti-Semitic. Wow.
All right. So I believe that Zionism is a religious ethno-supremacist ideology that that revolves around the exterminationist policies of removing the indigenous population that lived in, as you said, historic Palestine, as long as they are not Jews, because it's a ethno-religious supremacist.
I don't even think Ethan knows the context of Balfour Paris Peace Treaty. I mean, he was claiming to Sam Cedar that there was Hamas violence and Hamas activity at the March 7th, not March 7th, excuse me, it was in the 2014 March for Return, the peaceful March of Return. Was it 2018? Why did I say 2014?
Ideology.
Sorry, 2018.
This is a disagreement that you and I have.
No, of a charity event is he is actively sabotaging it to punish the organizer.
Yes.
I agree with you. I agree with you. If you want to add that, like the genesis of Zionism included, the displacement and the ravaging of the culture that existed there, then I would agree with you. I mean, I don't think that the establishment of Israel was like a good thing. I mean, it was tragic and a lot of bad things happened. But let me ask you, sir, how was filming that content? I just have to know what you felt, what you were thinking as they were doing the Fortnite L behind you.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
No. We're here. I don't want to talk about definitions. You got your Zionism, and let's do it.
Okay. Oh, okay.
This is what I mean, by the way, when I say that Ethan's performance looks bad, because even though, and this is my opinion, and I really do want to be very clear, debating another person for 4 hours, which I disagree that this debate should have been 4 hours long, but debating another person for 4 hours in front of hundreds of thousands of people I'm not claiming that it's easy, okay? I'm not claiming that it's simple and that it's easy and that you wouldn't freeze up or any of these other things. I think Hassan had some misplays, but this is what I mean when I say Ethan looks more unwell than Hassan does. And this is not a comment on any mental illness, drugs, whatever the fuck. I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. I'm talking about the words that he's choosing to use. Hassan is very, I think, respectfully saying, let's just get some ground rules through. I want to just make sure we define a bunch of these terms that are going to come up over and over again. And like he's already throwing a fit. Ethan's already throwing a fit and being like, no, let's get straight to the point. Come on, let's get straight to the point. So about that L dancing, what was on your mind? It's like, dude, chill. Take your panties and unknot them for 2 seconds. Just chill. Let's define all the words. This can't take that long. How many words are there to define within the conversation about Israel-Palestine? There's not that many. Chill. Okay, all right. Let's get through this. And then you can bring up what you want to bring up.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was fine.
Did you not?
I've participated in other
doing that.
YouTube videos as well in the past.
But that Fortnite L dancing.
Some of them feature.
Dude, I really want to talk to the person who keeps overlaying this. Are you a double agent? Because I feel like you're a double agent. Every time you put this on the screen, it's really funny for this side of the drama. Pretty sure it's Zach, or maybe it's Love. I think it's Nate. Whoever is doing it is either really dumb and doesn't recognize how bad and stupid it makes Ethan look. Like it literally looks like an edit. Oh my God, of Ethan. Real voice, real smoker voice came out. Or they're a double agent.
Some of them feature sketches.
I noticed you weren't in the other shots. Why was that?
I think I was being interviewed.
Oh, really?
By
Who was
the
interviewing
journalist while that was happening?
Really?
I don't remember.
Really? Oh, that's convenient. I think you were embarrassed, frankly.
As someone who was there, this is so funny. This is so funny, dude. Well, actually, conjecture on my part. I don't think that that's what happened. I think actually it's this other thing that and it's like he literally was. He literally was. It's not that complicated.
You were absent from every other shot. I think you saw him doing that. I think you saw him doing that Fortnite dance, and you said, "I got to get out of this." And by the way, I'm giving you credit for that.
I mean, Ethan, you're a comedian. You know, you participated in some sketches. You know, it happens.
I mean, shit. Yeah.
Really? You're one of your most famous sketches. You in a fucking diaper. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. We've done funny things.
Okay, you know what? Let's not debate the merit of.
I'm sorry. An adult wearing a diaper is significantly less funny than a nightmare sketch that you accurately clocked as a nightmare. So it achieved the goal that it had in mind when it was created. And you're